afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. And it's time to talk about the Orville, the season finale of season 3, episode 10, Future Unknown. I'm here with my three usual cohorts. First of all, let me introduce you to Major Rage. How you doing?
Doing great. Proud to be here. Excited to talk about this week's episode.
Fantastic. Also, I'm with Commodore Boone. How you doing, mate?
Doing great. Same thing. Very excited about this last episode. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. A lot of good
Yes,
stuff.
yes, it does.
Yep.
And finally, Cheetah, how you doing, mate?
Hanging in there, just coming fresh off the heels of the episode. I just finished it up just a couple moments ago, so I'm very excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, me too. I have to say that this season ended with a the word bang would be a disservice, but I don't want to even say that this season ended with a whimper either, because this season ended superbly. We didn't need some, some amazing wang bam thank you man type of episode. We got a very personal episode, and we got an episode, in my opinion, that harkened back to what Awful was initially. Quite
Yes.
quite comical. I do apologize for all that noise and beeping, but comical in the sense, but there was a lot of heart and there was a lot of love in this episode. They never really strayed away. There was no last minute panics and stuff like that. Any bumps in the road were kind of smoothed over. This was a beautiful episode, a beautiful send off to season 3, and possibly, if this is the last season of Orville, which I hope to God it isn't, this is a beautiful way to end the saga as well. It's just such an amazing episode. I loved it from start to finish. The word beautiful will be popping up a lot from me, because that's the only thing that really makes me express how I feel about this episode. It was lovely. It was great. It was funny. It was heartwarming. It was just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about this show, episode season 3 of the Orville itself has been phenomenal. One of the greatest seasons of television I've ever seen in my life. And this final episode ended in the best way possible. No, not an action-packed episode, just a lovely episode. A feel-good episode. And I just this show just keeps impressing me all the time. Not very often do we get a season finale that really sticks the landing like this episode did. It was amazing. Not a pew pew in fucking sight. I loved it, and it was still one of the best episodes of Orville I've ever seen. Just absolutely fantastic. The old and the new was all in this one fucking episode. It was great. Major Rage. Before we start doing the play by play, what do you think of this episode?
I really enjoyed it. It was a great episode. If the Orville was still on network TV on Fox, they would have flipped the order of
Mm-hmm.
these past two episodes. They would have made last week's episode the finale because it had the over the top cinematography, the action, the big overwhelming ramifications for the lore and the political landscape and power structure of their the galaxy and their universe. And I think it's a really brave choice to do the heartfelt, just character driven for the most part episode that we got this week, and I'm proud of them for going there. It takes a lot, and like you said, it brings it back to kind of the classic season 1 and 2 Orville a lot, being focused on the characters, what they're doing on the ship, and the jokes. There's more things played for humor in this episode than the entire rest of the
Mm-hmm.
season combined, and I haven't
Mm,
been mad at it all season because what they've been giving us has been phenomenal and just weighty, heavy, no right answer in most of the situation, kind of moral and ethical quandaries, and I loved it. But this episode, just chef's kiss, so heartfelt and just very brave to do the slow pace, no action episode for the finale.
I agree, and refreshing as well. I may add, which is, and when it works, it works. Commodore Boom, what have you got to say?
Oh, it's an interesting video. I mean, you see Isaac going down and getting a banana and figure out where he's taking that, and other things that popped in the episode. I was kind of curious, and things that I didn't know about, I learned about, and that's really about it. It's just an interesting video, or an interesting show, I should say.
Okay, Cheetah.
I cannot.
I.
No, I know it's hard to explain. Like this, Major Rage put it out there very
Yeah, he did.
eloquently, whereas I stutter all over myself.
Yep.
It was a great episode. I'm so glad I was wrong, because I remember messaging you last night, Zam, saying, "Oh, this is going to be a lovey-dovey episode, but whatever. I'll wait until I see it." 100% wrong. I did say that, and I'm like,
It was a lovey-dovey
whatever.
episode.
Huh?
It was a lovey-dovey episode.
But they did it so
Oh, yeah.
well. And just
Yeah.
to Mage's point, they couldn't have done the reverse because of the Kalon ramifications, like the alliance and stuff like that.
Fair
I mean, it would have
enough.
been
Good
funnier
point.
if they would have showed up and they were still at war. But you're right. Like it. But no, it is very ballsy to do an episode like this, and just for them to pull it off like this, it's like, you know, I don't want Orville to go anywhere, but god damn it, can we please get Seth MacFarlane on the Kevin Feige of Star Trek? Or
Yeah, there you
what
go.
is it, the Alex Kurtzman, position? Like, please, for the love of God. Like, I know I don't want Orville to go anywhere, but I'm like, but I don't know. I really enjoyed this episode. I really thought it was a great counterpoint to last week's episode, which, don't get me wrong, I love that episode too. Like, that was the Rogue One episode that was very well done, very pew-pewed. And it was very like lore building, story driven, which, as I said, I'm just repeating what Mage said, but like, I just can't, I just can't praise this show enough. And, this season, and just how well they've done things. I don't think I've ever ranked a show so high for so long in a series. Like, if we were to add up like all the episodes and round it to out of 10 and then a percentage, I'm pretty sure the show's gotten at least like an 85% from me, like on average, maybe even more, for the whole season. And that's crazy. Like, that is crazy, because there's always episodes that we're like bitching and moaning about and stuff like that. But this season really stuck the landing. It stuck the penultimate episode, because normally if you have a shitty penultimate episode, you also have you either get a good or a bad season finale. So it's like this one really stuck not only the penultimate episode, but the season finale, as well as every other episode pretty much it came before it. So I consider to talk about this probably all day and y'all get bored. But yeah, no, very good episode. I really enjoyed it.
I just want a bit of a rebuttal from me. I don't want Seth MacFarlane anywhere near Star Trek, because if the reason being is that I'm not saying that I want Orville. This is his baby. I want him to continue it to be his baby. Plus, if Seth MacFarlane goes on to Star Trek, those Seth MacFarlane-isms will be in Star Trek, and then people will be pointing that shit out all the time. You know what I mean?
I actually think he wouldn't. I actually think he would treat Star Trek with a different reverence than he treats the Orville. And I'm not saying the Orville's bad. You're right. The Orville is its own thing. It's a different type of universe. It's a different type of like enlightened society. They're a little bit more loose and but I mean, Star Trek has done some goofy stuff. I mean, you got Captain Pike sitting in the captain's chair making like pirate sounds.
I agree, which is why I feel like both shows have kind of swapped places. I think Strange New World is a lot more like how Orville used to be, and Orville is like a lot more like how Star Trek used to be.
Yeah. But I really feel like that Seth MacFarlane would treat, if he actually got a hold of the actual Star Trek product, I feel like he would treat it differently than he treats Orville. And as I said, I don't want Orville to go anywhere, but oh my God, like this is like the J. Michael he's like the J. Michael Straczynski of the new era. Is like, when J. Michael Straczynski went and did Babylon 5, like, it was such and as I said, I love DS9, but it's like Babylon 5 was also amazing. And it's like Trek has this knack, their creative team has this knack of missing the boat when snatching up creative people and getting them in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. Because if Straczynski was on Deep Space Nine, it would have been a much different show.
You don't think Star Trek is kind of like course correcting now with with Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, you know, and maybe possibly even to a degree Discovery, bringing back some of those Star Trek elements. You know, don't you feel that to a degree? I mean, if anything, Strange New Worlds has become a pretty much a breath of fresh air by being a breath of old air.
Yep.
I mean, no, I agree. All recent Trek is getting better. I feel, and as I said, I'm not saying that Kurtzman is the devil that everybody makes him out to be. You know, I've never said that. I've never thought that I believe that, you know, maybe he had, you know, like, as I said, maybe he put the wrong people in charge. Maybe he was a little too hands off with some of the projects, like Picard season 1, Discovery season 1 and 2. And I think once all these things kind of started coming out, Kurtzman kind of took the reins a little bit more, got a little bit more power with his new contract, and, you know, started to course correct some of this, because Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, you know, the later seasons of Discovery now, you know, they're all really, even Picard season 2, although there were some
Even
issues.
Prodigy, dude.
And yeah,
Even
and Prodigy. I don't care about Prodigy.
you got hatred for. I like Prodigy. Yeah, I do.
I don't
it's very
hate
good.
Prodigy. It's not my bag, so I don't think of it right away.
Well,
anyway,
look,
so
let's get back onto this.
Yeah.
So ready for the play-by-play, or you guys got anything more to say?
no, play-by-play.
Hit us, boss.
All right. Okay.
Go
So
for
here we
it.
are, Orville, season 3, episode 10, Future Unknown. So we have a classic song playing about a bachelor in paradise who shouldn't be tied down because, you know, he won't be a bachelor anymore. And while this song is played, we see Isaac walking around the ship doing certain duties. Do you know what that song was by any chance? It feels like something I would hear in the background of Back to the Future. No?
No, I have no idea.
I just assumed it was from a musical since it's
Mhm.
Seth.
Yeah, fair enough. So, Isaac, as I said, is walking around the Orville doing briefings with Lamar, giving bananas to Dr. Flynn. He arrives on to the bridge, and Bortus is now talking about his ritual with Clyden. They both have to disrobe, and Clyden has to run away from Bortus, and Bortus has to chase him and capture him. Then they will mate, and this will cement their ritual, some sort of Macklin ritual.
It's a
Now,
Beta Z meets a Klingon ritual.
Well, this immediately made me realize, okay, we're going to get a classic Orville episode. The moment that it began like that, it felt, yeah, this is classic Orville here, old school. And I don't mind, because in a way it's good to go back to its roots. And this definitely is its roots. So Orville crew members are all on a forest-like planet to watch the ceremony, the Macklin ceremony. The Macklins disrobe, and they look like alien sumo wrestlers. And then the pursuit begins. Clyden, being fat, makes his pursuit easy for Bortus, but it's Bortus who has to capture Clyden, and then then Bortus does eventually capture Clyden, grabs him, you know, pounces on him, and then when he screams in the air, it kind of reminds me of the Klingons when somebody dies and they scream in the air like that.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then the ritual's complete. Bortus and Clyden embrace with touching heads around, and they do this around the other Orville crew members, leaving an awkward moment for the crew as the embrace lasts longer than they expected, and the crew end up clapping to fill in the dead air. And then finally, as the scene ends out, we focus on Isaac before going on to the next scene. By the way, anytime you want to interrupt, fellas, please do.
I mean, I thought that this part was very interesting, and it was kind of, I mean, it's a little bit lore building for the Mocklins and everything like that. It kind of tracks with their society. But so were they naked or were they wearing something? Because
They were wearing sumo thongs.
Well,
like
but
Macklin's
okay,
version of sumo thongs.
but didn't he say?
Yes,
like,
he did.
He said,
Yeah.
"Bear as we were when we came into the world." I'm like, so are they born with sumo thongs, or are they like, or is that just what they're?
Kelly insisted on them covering with something.
Oh, did
Yeah,
she?
because
I'm
as I said,
sure off screen.
Oh, okay.
as
I'm
I said,
like-
there was kids there as well. It's like, come on, you can't be having your thing dangling in front of the children for fuck's
Yeah,
sake.
really.
And I
Get a
understand
caught
that,
and
but
branch.
Yeah.
at the same time, I was just like, okay, like, and I mean, it's fine if that's how their genitalia look. I mean, whatever. Whatever. But I'm just like, so were they? But it did look like there was like a strap going back. So I'm like,
Yes.
are they wearing
Oh
something?
yeah, they were wearing a thong for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway,
I was watching Jessie Gender's review of this episode, and she mentioned how hot it must have been for those guys in those suits, running around the forest and shit. Yeah, it must have been really hard, and difficult, because they're like covered top to bottom. Anyway, back on the Orville, Isaac goes onto the computer for info on bonding. He then interrupts Dr. Claire's lunch and proposes marriage to her, even giving her a ring and going on one knee. And then boom, we cut to credits. So back in Claire's quarters, she's talking to Isaac, and she's basically going on about what the fuck just happened. She wants to know why Isaac wants to marry her, and because Claire is mortal, Isaac is immortal, and so this is obviously confusing Claire. But Isaac also says that even when she's gone, he'll be there for her kids and all her descendants. Claire then Claire's having like a girls' night out with Kelly and Tala, and they're having a lot to drink, and they're talking about Isaac and marriage, weighing up the pros and cons. And Ed comes in, and the girls quickly ask his opinion on marrying Isaac, and Ed suggests to Claire, why don't you ask your kids and how they would feel? Then later on,
useful sober man. I'm going to use that.
Yes, yeah, sober
That
man.
was hilarious.
Yeah, when are you ever drunk though, Cheeto? And regardless,
Uh-oh.
I guess you probably shouldn't ask my friends.
Yeah, fair enough. The Orville then gets a message from Admiral Halsey, and they need to go to Sargas 4. Now, this is the planet where
social media ruled.
Yeah, social media with the likes and dislikes and stuff like that. And the reason why they were supposed to go there was never really fully explained, but nevertheless they have to go to that planet. And as they I'm sorry, I think I've missed some of my notes here. I do apologize.
Well, they went to that planet to pick up that lady, and they was gonna go to that planet anyhow.
Well, they were getting something from the research team, I think it was. Yeah. And so she happened to have a communicator left over from when they were there last time. And so she reached out to them using that because they as they were heading towards the planet, they went into comms range.
Right.
So,
they get a message from, I think her name is Lacella, but I'm calling her Sella. She's the main girl, or the main guest star of that particular episode. And they're kind of surprised by her contact, and they bring her on board because Sella, kind of after meeting the members of the Orville, she's been enlightened, and she kind of hates her own planet, and she wants asylum on the Orville. And then Kelly,
which I don't blame her. I mean, if I met aliens, I'd request asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Kelly is being given like orders to kind of like acclimatize Sella to the Orville by being like a chaperone, so to speak. So that's what she does. Anyway, Malloy busts Lamar's balls about Sargas 4, and as they're having their little locker room moment, because the reason being because Lamar was almost killed on that planet for dry humping a statue. Anyway, nevertheless, Isaac decides to come in, and then Lamar gives his shitty advice as he usually does. I remember the advice he gave to Isaac in the previous season, and you see Isaac like dressed up in a wife beater and stuff like that. That was
the tidy whities, the stained tidy whities, holding like a beer.
Yeah.
Why is my dinner not cooked?
Yeah, that was hilarious. So, but this time he's giving more shitty advice and basically tells Isaac, you know what, you need to fuck around. You need to meet other girls. Just have some variety to spice up your life, so to speak. So we then cut to Claire, and she breaks the news of her marriage to her kids, and the kids already know because word travels fast around the small ship. Yep. They both give her their blessing. Claire then meets up with Isaac and gives him an answer, and the answer is yes.
Yay! Oh.
Isaac then meets Kelly and asks her for a date and sex. Kelly refuses, but then wants to know why he made that offer. And Isaac mentions Lamar, and then Kelly was able to kind of put the pieces together.
Kelly's like, I thought it was something like that. I was like, that would pretty much be where I would be at this point.
Yeah, Kelly was in a lot of scenes in this episode. She was
Yeah, she was.
there. She was there for Claire, and she was there for Stella,
And she's,
pretty much.
I would say Kelly overall this season has been in way more scenes than even Ed has been in.
Mm-hmm.
Like Captain
Yeah.
Mercer's, honestly, I feel like except for maybe 1 or 2 episodes, he's really been just kind of like not a background character, but like not the main character. Like, and which is I'm okay with. I'm 100% okay with it because you know me watching Discovery and everything. I want that the side characters to get as much time as possible.
Exactly. So then Kelly goes to sickbay to talk to Claire. She has something to ask Claire, but Claire quickly gets her thing off her chest and wants Kelly to be her maid of honor. Then Kelly, obviously honored by this, wants to do it, but then Kelly tells Claire about Isaac wanting a shag. Claire then confronts Isaac about this and lays some ground rules before heading off to Lamar. She then gives Lamar the right act and says if he gives Isaac one more bit of advice, she'll fuck him. She'll fuck him up. I mean, that's basically what she says.
Dude,
to him, and I love that.
I loved it. Man, she laid into him like, oh god,
Lamar.
Although
she laid down the law. She laid down the law on that guy.
I mean, I
don't
really
you ever do that
like,
again, she said.
I really feel like Kelly could have broke the news to her a little bit more gingerly. She's like, oh, your fiance just asked me out or something like that. Like not even prefacing it with, by the way, Lamar gave Isaac some advice and he came and she didn't even preface it. She just gave it to, and I'm sure she did it afterwards.
Actually, she would have told. But watching as I watched the episode twice, initially I thought, doesn't Kelly tell Claire this? But you don't hear her mention Lamar to Claire. But then when she talks to Isaac doesn't mention Lamar to Claire either. So off screen, she must have found that from Claire. So
I know, but
Kelly.
I'm just like, shouldn't you like preface it with that rather than like just coming out with it? Like, I don't know.
Well, I can understand she's making sure she tells Isaac exactly how this is supposed to go about, right. And once Isaac gets the gist of it, she then fucking goes after Lamar and makes sure Lamar doesn't fucking. And you know what I liked about all of this is the way that sometimes these bumps in the road, which I mentioned earlier, could then just derail everything, and whatever's supposed to be smooth ends up being fucked up. But none of that happened. It was just a bump in the road, and it got dealt with. You know what I mean? No fucking stupid melodrama. We're sticking to what we all want to see, which was a feel-good episode, and I very much appreciated that. So Kelly's now takes Stella to the simulator, or as I like to call it, the stimulator, especially if you're Reginald Barclay. Anyway, this is how the crew of the Orville entertain themselves and even educate themselves. Now, Kelly plays a program where they're inside an asteroid, and we see the clamelids. It's like an alien squid-like species who are part of the Union. And seeing all of this now kind of starts to begin to overwhelm Stella to a degree. Back on the bridge, Isaac wants Malloy to be his best man because Malloy is funny. And then Portis butts in and he says he's very funny and demands being the best man, leaving Malloy hanging and pissed off.
Suffering Irishman.
So I also have to take a step back and admit my wrongness to Zam, because Zam has always told me, he said, no, look, like there can be two deadpan characters as long as they work off each other well, they can be good. And I said, I don't know, like that's too much deadpan for me. I have to admit, I loved it. Like the interactions between Bortus and Isaac were excellent. So, I mean, yeah, granted, if you don't have the right people to do the right deadpan humor off of each other, but yeah, I know you were right.
Different deadpan. And the difference was like Isaac is emotionless completely.
Yeah.
Bortus is just humorless. He's not emotionless. He's got emotion. We've seen that throughout the season. He's just not a funny guy. That's all. You know what I mean? Anyway, then Kelly shows the ship's power source to Stella, and the overwhelmingness of everything starts to make Stella think about how primitive her planet is, and the sense of guilt that starts to go through Stella, thinking that if she had this tech, they'll be better people. But then Kelly responds that and this is a great line. Kelly responds by saying, you get this technology by becoming better people. That was a great fucking line, you know what I mean? kind of get lost in some of the things that happened in this episode. But if you better yourselves, then the rewards are there for you, like this sort of technology. Molloy then spills his grievances to Mercer and Lamar about not being Isaac's best man and bitches about Portus at the same time. Then the sandwich Molloy sent into the future 3 months ago comes in, making Molloy briefly happy.
I knew that
Yeah, I had
fucking
a feeling.
sandwich was coming back.
Me too. I'll be honest with you. I had a feeling that sandwich was coming back. That was brilliant, though.
But I mean,
Like,
I wasn't
sandwich.
I wasn't expecting it when it was, and I kind of forgot about it. But I knew, like, when they shot it into the future, I'm like, there's going to be some kind of big like catastrophe happening on the ship. It's being invaded, and all of a sudden, like this sandwich is going to appear, and someone's going to use it to like save their life or something. I mean, so this is a little less underwhelming than what I thought, but I'm like, it's still like, what the hell is up with this
Saved
sandwich?
Malloy's day. He needed that sandwich right about then. He was
Yeah.
upset.
Yeah.
He's like, I knew I'd need that sandwich.
Goddamn egg sandwiches as well. I can't stand that stuff. But as long as it made Malloy happy, it made me happy.
There you go.
So Stella is amazed by the synthesizer. She wants to know, this is basically the food replicator. She wants to know why this tech cannot be given to her planet, and Kelly and Tyler explain that this tech will be exploited by the rich, making for an unfair society where people get exploited. Isaac's bachelor party has begun, and it's a bore. Bortus comes out dressed as Elvis, with only Clyde and being remotely impressed. Claire's bachelorette party, by the way, is banging, and the girls are having great fun with a Chippendale Kalon adding to the mix. I mean, that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant.
You know what would have made it even more perfect is if they got like, how in Star Wars and sometimes they have like that, they have that cameo of like a very important star, but like they're behind a mask, so you don't know they're there. It would have been amazing if they came out after today and said, by the way, that was Channing Tatum under that mask. Like,
yeah, that would have been the most buffest though. Kalon ever, because Channing Tatum is a very muscular dude. Yeah, I mean, he would have been bursting out of that fucking Kalon costume. Yeah,
I know, but it would have been so great to like have just them have some really popular actor who's known for like that sexualized dancing and stuff like that, like to be under that mask.
Okay, well, Sellers talks to Kelly, and she has second thoughts and wants to return home. Kelly brings this news to Mercer, who's overseeing Claire's wedding dresses. And this is a moment I did like in a way, because I know where Ed's coming from. Like, yes, the blue dress is nice. Yes, the white dress is nice. It's very hard to have a preference. They're both fucking nice. And then he gets shit for it. You know what I mean? For not choosing one over the other. And obviously, once Kelly comes in, she immediately says the white dress is fantastic. She gives a bit more oomph to how much she likes it, but regardless of all of that, Kelly also tells Ed that that Stella wants to go back, and then kind of Ed puts his foot down a little bit, saying, "Okay, great. If she goes back, there's no coming back for her. The Orville isn't a pleasure cruise." So Stella is now going back, and she gets on the shuttle, and the alarms go off, and Stella is caught stealing a comms scanner, basically like a tricorder. And with the information on this device with synthesizers, scanner arrays, and simulators. Fortunately, nothing to do with weapons, which kind of appeased a little bit to Tala, but regardless, she was stealing technology. And Kelly's kind of upset. Sorry, go on.
But I was kind of happy they went this route, because as soon as that alarm went off, because I knew, like, I figured the whole time she was trying to steal technology.
Oh yeah.
Like, I just didn't know if it was premeditated or if it would end up being that way. You know what I mean? So like, I didn't know.
That's why she never went to the party, because she wanted to steal stuff.
Yeah, and so but I am kind of glad they went the route of, she wasn't in it to like for money or popularity or whatever, like from her plan. Like it wasn't premeditated. It was, I feel incredibly guilty for being here, and I want to help my people. And her not having weapons on there showed that. Like if it was all about money and popularity or power, she would have had weapons on there. So I'm kind of glad that it wasn't shown as premeditated. It was more like, I actually do just feel genuinely altruistically bad about my people are suffering, and I'm here because, and why am I so lucky? And everything she basically said she meant. It wasn't just a line to get, them to lower their guard to her. because I didn't really
Yeah.
want her to be like that antagonist that's just like, you know, that
That
go ahead.
reaffirms the worst of us.
Yeah,
And
like
instead,
Mhm.
the Orville's such a hopeful show, and I'm glad that they just keep being consistent with that. For the most part, people genuinely are, looking forward to, a better, future, and
well,
doing things for the right reason.
and I feel like as humanity, we are that way. We are looking to the betterment, but right now as a society, we only have the option of looking towards the betterment of ourselves because we can't like money and power and all this other things is in the way, and it's making us have to be that way, to want to be. And even Kelly says it, like the matter synthesizer, when that was created, it kind of got rid of a lot of these problems of selfish desires. And she even actually said, why aren't people just laying around doing nothing? And then Kelly's like, because we don't, like, we don't want to, we don't,
Yeah.
it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Apathy is frowned upon. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, so I mean, I get it where she's coming from. I don't remember her name, the girl from the planet, but I also get where, I'll call it the Facebook planet.
Sargas 4.
Sargas 4, yeah.
There you go.
From that planet, or I get it from Kelly's perspective. And you're right, Zam, that one line that she said really hits home about, about the technology and what is it, not earning,
No,
but you know what I mean.
when you become better, you get the technology. Something
Right.
along those lines.
Yeah,
It's not, the technology doesn't make you better. You becoming better makes you get the technology.
technology.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So
And go ahead, Zam.
yeah, and also I agree with you. And also, by the way, just before I continue, this is actually better than the Prime Directive. But the Prime Directive was okay, fine. You get warp technology, boom. I mean, we start introducing you to the rest of the universe and shit like that. This is better than that. This is basically acknowledging the fact that because of the way your planet is situated, maybe through capitalistic desires, greed, all of that sort of shit, we will not let you have this technology because it will just make your society worse. Until you improve yourself better as a race of people, then the technology will come with that. But until then, you get nothing from us. And I really like that. I really like that. It's more than just space exploration.
Well, and
You know what I mean?
it seems very cold hearted, but it's very true. Because like if an
Yeah.
alien race just came down and gave us technology right now, like, yeah, we'd exploit the hell out of it because
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
that's what we are as a society. And I mean, it's hard to say that anyone on anyone in this world wouldn't at least in some way, shape, or form try to exploit it. And as I said, there are altruistic people out there. There are people that have good intentions, and it gets turned awry by other people. So, but yeah, no, it's actually more of a deep quandary of society that we're actually, that I even feel this episode really put on it. You could do a whole other episode based on some of this stuff, and I really do kind of hope we do
I
have
agree.
like a Prime Directive episode, kind of like the first episode of Strange New Worlds, because honestly, there's a lot of parallels between this episode and Strange New Worlds in two different fashions. The Strange New Worlds was more like they saw us and they found out about us and they reverse engineer technology by seeing us. Whereas in this one, it's more like, hey, there's one person, but she's trying to help a whole planet.
Well, Kelly's very upset by Sella's actions and then takes Sella off to the simulator. She shows what happens when you give advanced tech to civilizations that are not ready for it. It causes divide, jealousy, and then war. And we see this once lush planet through the lens of the simulator, and then within 5 years becomes an apocalyptic wasteland. And Sella's planet cannot be pulled into the future. And this is another great line by Kelly. Sella, your planet cannot be pulled into the future. They have to do it on their own. Fucking, like, honestly, the advice Kelly was giving today was, amazing.
Yep.
So on
That
on
scene, I
yeah,
loved that scene. I feel that it really adds a lot to the lore for the Planetary Union that they've come up with, their position, their Prime Directive type laws through error. I think that it humanizes them a little bit. They made the mistake and they learned from it.
Mhm.
And
exactly. Sometimes it's the only way you can learn is by making mistakes. Yes, go on, Gio.
I just want to ask a question about like money, because wasn't it in the first season? Didn't they infer that they were getting paid? And in this episode, and in this like season or episode, they really weren't. I thought that they
I
were
can't
getting some
remember.
kind of credits or something in the first season or something like. They were talking about pay wages and stuff like that, weren't they?
But this isn't. I seems like maybe, but this isn't the first time I've heard them use that bit about reputation is currency
Well,
in the
maybe.
union.
I'd have to go back and watch. I know if it was in there, I know it was from like the first couple episodes of the first season, because I think I remember Mercer talking about it at one point about money or promotion or a raise or something that
Maybe he
inferred
said
money.
maybe he said pay grade.
But he might have said pay grade, but still, that's still
Yeah.
pay. So
No, but
some
maybe
kind
he's using it as a phrase. You know what I mean? Not
Maybe.
necessarily. Yeah.
it's just something I'd have to go back and look into.
I'm curious
So,
now.
Okay, well, look back on the bridge. Isaac informs the crew that 4,000 Kalen vessels are here to attend the wedding.
This part made me laugh so much.
4,000 ships. Wow.
Yeah, so Claire tells Isaac they all can't attend. There's no room for them. Isaac, a little embarrassed, realized he fucked up, and I like the way he kind of turns around like, okay, yes, dear. You know what I mean? Like that sort of mode from him. But he basically then tells Kalen Primary most of the Kalen will have to watch the proceedings from their ships, and Kalen Primary is cool with that. So the wedding begins with Kalon crew members in attendance. With Kalon and crew members in attendance. Claire and Isaac gives their vows. Isaac is in human form, and whilst giving their vows, they're basically promising to be there for each other. They put on their wedding rings on each other, saying "I do's." And because Mercer is the captain of a ship, and as we all know, if you're the captain of a ship, you can give you can obviously cement a wedding. So he cements their wedding by saying, you may now kiss each other and all of that malarkey. And yeah, it was they're finally married. Welcome, Shrimpula. I hope I've said your name correctly. Yes, it is a very hopeful show.
Yep.
Yeah, utilizes dystopian social currency. Yeah, we don't need money in this world. We just need to have synthesizers and have all our food made for us, and everything would be hunky dory.
Well, that'd be nice.
Honestly, it would be nice, mate. I'll be trying delicacies I would never even consider. I'll make myself a chocolate fountain as well. Oh my god, I'll be diving in it. So with jubilation and applause from all the guests, everyone seems to be very happy. These two people are finally married. A special guest arrives as well to join the wedding. It's Alara from the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as she arrives, then Bortus tries to give his best man speech.
Tries.
His deadpan, yeah. His deadpan persona and terrible delivery is killing the mood. And then Isaac stops Bortus in his tracks and tells Malloy to take over.
Mm-hmm.
With his comical approach, he removes the tension and concludes his best man speech with a toast. Claire, very touched by the speech, asks Malloy to sing a song. And as the episode plays out, we see Malloy strumming his guitar, singing a ballad to the married couple and guests. And that's the episode done. What a fantastic episode from start to finish. I kept thinking to myself, okay, any minute now shit's gonna kick off. You know what I mean? I was thinking to myself, like Malloy's made some stupid joke, and now all of a sudden, he's mentioned that Claire can take Isaac apart for parts or something like that, and then now Kalen Primary is going to be pissed off and think, oh my god, yes, they are trying to enslave us, and then it's all going to kick off. You know what I mean? Like Tony Stark's party from Avenger Ultron. It's going to be, it's going to be something like that. But no, none of that. I'm so glad we didn't get any of that. It just, in a way, I wish just to sidetrack a little bit. I wish the party in Avengers Ultron didn't have fucking Ultron, but gate crash it. It would be nice for them just to party throughout and everything. I would have loved to watch the Avengers just have a proper party without any interruptions.
That's actually two of my favorite parts of Age of Ultron. Just kind of to piggyback off that are the Barton Ranch scene and that party. And I mean, we saw that party scene even before the movie came out. And I wanted to see it in its entirety. It was a lot of fun, and I agree with you. They did it. They did the ballsy thing, and I hope it pays off for them. I hope that You know, it's, I mean, we all loved it, but we don't know how the rest of the internet's loving it. But I mean, you know, I really hope it pays off for them because it proves.
I got a comment here from that I shared this video around, and when this one lady called Alessa Fraser said it was a bit flat after the epic previous episode and no cliffhanger. Like,
we don't need a cliffhanger.
No.
You don't need a cliffhanger. Like, you know,
It
this
needed
is
to
great stuff.
breathe. The show needed a bit
Yeah.
of a breather and to go back to its roots a little bit.
So can I bring up a point that may or may not be like anything? Are we okay with Claire having, and this might be Isaac's choice, but like, why does he have to be human, like looking? Like, I get
Yeah.
it. Like, if she loves him, wouldn't she love him for who he is, a Kalon? Why does he have
That's
to
it.
put
Yeah,
on
that-
the
that-
image
yeah,
inducer
yeah.
or whatever it's called?
You make a good point. Maybe she just wanted to be able to kiss and stuff like that. Put, you know, maybe put a ring on his finger properly without it. You know, maybe his Kalon fingers were too big.
Yeah, but an image inducer just changes his image. It doesn't change the entire shape of his body. So
yeah,
I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it, but I'm like, that's one thing I thought when I saw him standing there. I was like, honestly, my point is, if they were going to go this route, I honestly would have preferred them to give him and I know this is going to be on the point with Data, but like give him a synthetic body. Maybe the wedding gift from the primary would be a human body. You know, like it's still a synthetic, like it's still like a synthetic, you know.
The image inducer does change certain things. Like he has a mouth that opens. He has lips that she can kiss. He has hair that she can put her hands through. I mean, there is, you know, it's not just like it is there. You know what I mean? And it's obviously changing the whole dynamics of his physical feature, if you know what I mean.
But why does he have to change his physical feature for her?
No, I agree on that.
Yeah.
I agree on that.
As I said, I'm not mad about it, but I'm just like, really?
But he's done it. But he's done it before, hasn't he? You know what I mean?
Well, and actually, I had an issue with that in that episode where she walked in and she said, "Aren't you going to change?" And then he changed into his human form, and I'm like, and I don't know if I mentioned it during the episode. I might have forgot, but I was like, that's a kind of a red flag for me. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Like, I get the whole lips thing and everything like that. That's why I'm kind of like, I kind of wish the Kalon would have brought a like Kalon like built body, but it on the outside it actually looks all the time like the actor who they have playing him, like, you know, like, and that would have been their wedding gift. Like, it's customary for us to bring a gift, so we constructed you this human body so that you may blah 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 with your blah 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 wife. But you know, I don't know.
He was, I think, because he does, you know, like it's like, okay, I got, you know, maybe should have loved him regardless, but because there's like this bonus mode in the simulator, I can, even actually he can change himself outside the simulator. It doesn't have to be in the simulator.
I was about to, he had something going down to the planet when they went back in time
to Earth. Yeah, exactly. But you know, it's, you know, maybe he wanted to like dress up for the part and all of that as well, you know, because he's getting married. And you know,
as I said, it's not a huge thing, but I have a hard time rationalizing in my mind why it's okay. You know, like, it's not like I don't think Finn's a terrible person. But at the same time, I'm like, that's been one or two red flags where I'm like, what? And I know she doesn't have a problem with him in his Kalon because she sees him all the time like that.
But she was initially, I think maybe it was a season 1 or whatever, but she was initially infatuated by him, and then she found that he was able to change his appearance, and because he's able to do that, and that's how they were able to embrace and be intimate, because he was able to make himself look human. And like I said, but now he's able to do that. He does it, you know. I mean, he's got 2 appearances. I think she'll still love him regardless.
I know. As I said, I don't. Yeah. As I said, I don't think it's like she hates the Kalon and that's why she asked him to do it. I'm just like, you know, as I said, I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, really. But at the same time, I'm just like, I would be remiss if we didn't at least have the discussion. I'd be interested to see what you guys think down there, like Mage and Commodore. I mean, you guys have been quiet about it.
No, I think, why weren't the Kalon offended by this? I mean, I think that it's kind of crap that it took me aback. I'm like, he's getting married in this hollow form or whatever, with all of his race are here, and he's not going to look like his true appearance. It
Well,
just
Kalen
seemed.
don't get offended though, do they? Like
Yeah, I
you
was about to
can
say I don't
Yeah.
can't
think the
offend a
Kalen.
I
Kalen
don't.
on this, isn't it?
Well, it might remind them of the way their builders treated them in
Enslavement,
some way.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, see, they do not accept you for who you are, like our builders did.
And I
Yeah.
applaud them
Yeah.
for not going down there, because that's what Zam was saying, is that there's some kind of shenanigan that all of a sudden shit hits the fan with the Kalon, and I'm glad they didn't go down that route at at the wedding. I didn't want that.
Why does
Well,
there have to be a monkey wrench and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But because it's such a common trope, you almost expect it to be there. And it's actually pleasantly surprising that it never happened. And we did see Isaac talk to Kalen Primary before they came along, when he was actually giving the invite, and he's basically explaining the union to them that it wasn't enslavement; they were getting married. It's a shared responsibility and all of that. So he did it to a degree, kind of educate them before they came to the wedding.
Yeah.
So
I also, though, I do have a little bit of I have a little bit of remorse about, not remorse. I'm remiss about him explaining about marriage. I mean, it's never mind. I don't know where I was going with it.
yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I just have to say, regarding this entire season, fantastic. Even the seasons I didn't think, even the episodes I didn't think were like knock out the park amazing, were still getting 7s out of 10s for me. This is a fantastic season, and of all the sci-fi stuff I've watched over the years, this is arguably the best whole season of science fiction television I've ever seen. Honestly, I'm finding it very difficult to think of a season where it's been knocked out the park good. Now, don't get me wrong. Back in the day, Star Trek, TNG, and stuff like that had 22 episodes a season. So they're bound to have duds. But with only 10 episodes here,
Do you consider superhero stuff sci-fi, or do you consider just that like because I would say probably the last time we've got something this good would probably have to be like Daredevil season 3, or like, if you count like superhero stuff aside, or talk about space sci-fi.
It's a bit different. It's a bit different because
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. Like, do you consider
Daredevil is 100% serialized? I mean, even though there's a semi-serialization to the Orville, yes, there are elements.
There
There
was
are elements that come
serialization
back.
in this episode. The egg sandwich
Yeah,
didn't come back.
but it's still yeah, exactly. And obviously the Kalon now being good guys, and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, don't get me wrong, there are but it does feel, even with this episode, what happened previously with the previous, it still feels episodic. I mean, it still feels very episodic, and that's my difference there. Like even with season 3 of Daredevil, I can't recall thinking to myself, I loved every element of every episode. This season, I loved every episode. They had everything. You had your PP episodes, you had your emotionally impact episodes, you had cultural appreciation episodes. You had everything. And even with this episode as well, reminding us of what Orville used to be, that it can still be fun and games and all of that and jokes and stuff, and still have that feeling of what Star Trek is supposed to be. I do say Star Trek because this is a Star Trek show, regardless of not being Star Trek. It's just fantastic. I mean, I'm just so up. It's very bittersweet right now, not knowing if there's going to be a season 4. Because if this is how season 3 is, roll on to season 4, should not only be ready to go, season 5 should be already cemented too. Because if this is the sort of level we're getting, then this stuff shouldn't stop. Disney, you don't need Star Trek. You've got it. You've got it now. You've got the full deck. You've got Star Wars. You've got Marvel. You've got Star Trek in Orville. You've got everything you need. Just keep it going. That's. I'm sad. Yeah, go on.
Well, I was gonna say, can I bring up the one thing that I really didn't like about the end of this episode, though? Ed and Kelly holding hands.
Yeah.
I really thought we were past this, and I don't want this, only because in season 1 it was okay because of what the series was at that point, but I feel like this series has moved past that,
Mhm.
and we're just kind of, and I get it, and I think I've said this before. Relationships are messy, especially with being involved with like exes and stuff like that. Like it's
Yep.
messy. Like there's always feelings there. There's always that, and especially since they work so closely together. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't want another season where Kelly and Ed are like trying to work it out, or wondering if they're going to work it out, or if they're even going to go for it. I don't want that at all. Like
I'm just looking at it as like they've had this thing together. They were married. It's just a nice little moment, you know. But
and
I'm
if that's
hoping it
all it
just
is, then
remains
I'm
that. Yeah,
fine. Yeah, if that's all it is, I'm
yeah.
fine. Like, okay, they have a nice little moment. They hold hands, just thinking about the past. But I don't know. I'm not.
I'm being optimistic considering everything's been so good, and that's the way I'm looking at it. And until otherwise, that's how I'm hoping it will be. You know, nothing more. You know, just a bit of nostalgia. You know, they were married, they are at a wedding. You know, I mean, they're feeling it. You know, they might bump uglies for one night and then go back to business the next day. You know, I mean, that's about it. You know, that's how I'm thinking. So yeah, but great episode. I'm going to give it a mark. You know, episode 10 gets a 10. You know, without a doubt. You know, what a way to finish the season. I mean, you mentioned about penultimate episodes and final episodes. One usually is better than the other. This time they were both great. I gave last week's episode an 8 or a 9, I believe. This episode to finish the season the way it did, in the style it did, without any monkey wrenches, as you mentioned earlier, Mage, gets a 10, gets a fucking 10. You know what I mean? With no pew pews, no wham bam, thank you man, crash bang wallops, none of that,
Yeah.
and still end up pulling out a fantastic season finale that um is beyond my expectations, because we were all thinking that we're going to get going to get a Taylor court scene and shit like that with the Krill woman and all that sort of stuff. None of that materialized. It was its own thing. 10 out of 10. Cheeto?
I'm gonna jump on the Commodore Boone bandwagon with you. I'm gonna do a 10 out of 10. This episode was very different than last week's. Last week's episode for me was a 10, but it was a 10 for a very different reason. Like, like for everything we got in that episode, it was very well done. This episode, everything was very well paced and very well done. And yeah, like they hit every landing that they shot for, and it just 10 out of 10, because I mean, I except for the minor gripes, as I said, I mean, I can't even take that stuff and like knock it down to a 9. Like, it's so minor that I can't even knock it down to a 9. There's so much good in this episode. So
Commodore Boone.
Oh, I'd definitely give it a big fat 10. That was a great episode. Great episode.
and sausages, baby.
Also, if we go back to the wedding with the Kalons all sitting there, well, maybe they was trying to figure out why that Isaac was in human form, because they really didn't know too much about weddings. So maybe they was trying to absorb all that stuff in to learn about how humans do stuff. That's a possibility. Yeah.
Major Rage?
I'm gonna give this finale a 9. It was a great episode. I think we've said just about all we can say about it. I'm very satisfied that they didn't do some predictable, oh, she called them to rescue her from the planet just to steal the tech and, get rich or whatever, get more likes. And, usually Seth stuff's a little bit predictable, but in that kind of, okay, I know what's going to happen, but how are they going to go about fixing the situation? And this episode didn't have any of those monkey wrenches, and just back to Orville standard humor, character-driven story with some of the kind of moral quandary, sort of heavy stuff, but balanced properly. Great, solid.
Which was the subplot of the show, the stuff with Sella. Do you think she's going to be taking over Charlie's role? If
I was just going to ask that question. I was thinking that, and I was going to bring it up once we finished marking this.
Or
I think so. I think she's gonna. I don't know if she'll be a civilian on the ship or if she'll be like an ensign, maybe. But I figure she's got to go to some kind of academy or something. Maybe
Yeah.
we're gonna get a Orville Academy spinoff.
well,
Oh, that'd be
she's
neat.
basically gonna be that. You know, I mean, look at her. She looks human. She might be a
Hmm.
race of human for all we know. Regardless, she's gonna be that person out of time sort of thing. Even though she isn't out of time, but her planet is obviously not as developed as the Orville. So I think we're going to get some sort of culture clashes with her and misunderstandings and stuff like that if they do get a season 4 with her. But let's hope so. You know, what I mean, in a way, you know, when Charlie dying was a bit out of the blue.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily expecting her to die, but if they are filling that void, yeah, I can see her taking that role and being a different type of character overall.
Well,
So yeah,
here's the one thing is that they do tend to replace characters with very similar characters.
Hmm.
So, like, look at Alara.
Alara to
Yeah,
Tala. Yeah,
to
exactly.
yeah.
Tala. Like you
Hmm.
know, you figure they might actually bring like a different race in as a secure. And I get why they have the the what are they called? The Caledonians? No, I'm thinking
Zillions.
Chileans.
Heavy gravity people.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Chileans. As you know, I get why they have Chileans as security chiefs, but it's like they traded one for another. And now it's like now this like Charlie's gone, so now this new girl comes in, and they're both young, kind of impressionable, sassy people. So I really feel like they are kind of just like replacing, like they're basically doing name changes with the same types of characters. Like it's almost like a recast, but not actually recasting.
I
Um,
like Tyler a lot, by the way. I do. I think she's a great character.
oh, I do too, and I feel
Um,
like she's more mature too.
yeah, and the funny thing is, Alara was like a little girl in a security role, but when she came back for her cameo in this episode, she looked like she had grown up. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? She wasn't the little girl anymore. Even
Right.
we saw very briefly, she definitely had grown up. So yeah, but yeah, okay. So that's it. You know, should we mark the season as well? I'm 10. Without a doubt. I mean, I love this season. It's the best. Some of the best sci-fi I've ever seen. Definitely a 10. Cheetah.
I'm gonna give it a 9. There was a little bit that kind of faltered up with me. The one episode where all females, where the race of dominant females and everything, and their thought was to lie to them until they ease them into it. That really
Yeah.
bugged me. That definitely takes a point off for me. But other than that, I can't really think of anything that insanely sticks out to me that really bugged me about this season. So
I want to I want to go on about that as you mentioned it briefly, but sometimes it's good to see people do the wrong thing,
Yep.
and that's how I look at it. Like they think they're doing the right thing, and they're doing the wrong thing, and that's how I look at it. Like just people just choosing the wrong idea, and so I don't dislike it for that. It was just purposely set up for them to do the wrong thing in the first place, so but yeah, you're gonna give it a 9, yeah.
yeah, as I said, there were little things here
yeah.
and there, but other than that, I mean, yeah, that was the big one, and it just yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Commodore Boone.
Commodore Boone.
The whole season was great. You had some pew pews. You had some things that you learn about different species, and definitely just give it a big 10. Always give it a big 10.
10 sausages, baby. 10
Yeah, there
sausages.
you go. Big
Yeah,
old
and
10 every time.
there's still things that kind of like I think mainly the Ed and Trailer and their kid situation. There's something there, obviously not the Macklins apart
Right.
with the John with the Krill. There
I'm
is
surprised
more.
they didn't address any of that. Like, which I'm not that upset, but I'm just surprised.
I'm happy for them if they do get season 4, they can easily address it then. You
Oh,
know what I
yes.
mean?
Absolutely.
For sure. Major Rage.
I'll give the season a 9. It's a different beast from the first 2 seasons of Orville, so I mean, it just was more than just a tagline to differentiate that it was on Hulu. Is a different show, almost different format, but it was nice to see them kind of go back to form with this last episode and prove that maybe season 4 can kind of be a reconciliation between the older
Yeah.
style. and the really serious series episodes we got
Mhm.
for this season.
And I mean,
I'm
you
not-
watched it all pretty recently too. Like you started at the beginning and kind of caught up with us, and you
Mhm.
saw it all pretty condensed. So you have a more
It is
a fresh,
vastly different. It
Yeah.
feels like a different beast. It deserves a tagline to differentiate it. I'm not saying that I mind at all. I love it. It's mature. It's, you know, it kind of predictable in that Seth MacFarlane TV formula needs to be kind of a little formula so it's not off-putting. People like feeling smart while they watch TV. Things that, like Philip J. Fry once said, things that unexpected things make us feel scared and smart things make us feel stupid.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's predictable, but then how they resolve it happens in a way that's logical and is engaging to watch. It's great TV. A 9 for this season.
Fantastic. So, anyone out there in YouTube land, let us know what you think of this particular show, as well as we're all about to sign off. Anything more to add, fellas, before we close the curtain here on
About
Orville?
it.
Yeah, well, there's petitions out there for
All
Awful
good.
Season 4. You fucking Google that shit and you find it, but you're not going to find the fucking link here. But if you want it that badly, then you know you can find it. So find it indeed. Okay, thank you very much, Cheeto, Mage, Commodore, and to everyone out there. Live
Thank you.
long and prosper, and see us for the next stream. Bye bye.
Everybody have a great night.